Blades Ramble are proudly supported by our main channel sponsor, My Business Group, a group of brands designed to support owners, leaders and managers in business. We would not be where we are without the incredible support of John and the team. If you're looking to grow your business, contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk today for more information or follow the link in the description below.
Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
What is happening, Blades, and welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and this is your transfer update. I hear little bits and bats of things, and then I try and get it clarified first before I share with you. The first thing I want to say is, I hope you're all well, first and foremost, but whatever I'm about to say is I'm not rubber stamping it as ITK. I am not telling you that this is definite or 100% accurate information and take what I say and all this sort of thing. This is a trusted source that has not been wrong yet. The only sort of reluctance I have to doing these things really is that I could tell you something that I 100% believe to be true, and then things can change at the club and it never come off. So it appears to be that never happened. One of the players I'm going to talk about now is somebody that made me sort of doubt myself in terms of how much I should be sharing, because I think it damages your credibility if it doesn't happen. And I spoke to my dad about this at the weekend because he knows a little bit about where I get my information, and obviously he's fully informed as to what's going off. But then like maybe 20-30% of it never really sees the light of day. So when that's the case, people start to think, oh, well, what happened to this guy that Jimmy mentioned? Or what happened to... So I always try and be careful and selective in terms of what... It's not that I want to hold anything back from anyone. When I get the green light to give information, I want to be able to share it, because that's what the channel's all about. And I think it instills a bit of a calm, or at least an understanding into the fan base, because look, we're not always here to give good news either, but at least being informed, I think, helps people process what's going on at the club. You know, you don't have to like what's happening, but at least if you know a little bit about what's happening, then you can get your head around it. And I think that goes back again to the communication argument from the club. And I understand why certain ownership models choose not to communicate, or the clubs choose not to communicate, because it can affect your transfer dealings. But there's also a fan base to think about in terms of how we stick with the team and want to believe in the ownership, and we want to believe that we're going in the right direction. But if we're left to ponder ourselves and then we see a display like we did on Saturday, then it should be no surprise when fans start to get a little bit concerned. So I will always give you the information that I've got, and it's in good faith. It's not too it's certainly not clickbaity or anything like that, because if it was, I could chuck some real names out at you. But sometimes it might be a case of dampening some expectations, which I don't want to do, but I'd rather be honest with you about it. So here we are then. And hang on, let me just double check. We went live with Cal Fowler yesterday. Thank you to everybody that joined us on Ramble FC. And I just want to double check that everything's all right, because it sort of knocked me confidence a little bit in terms of going like, I'm pretty sure I am live at the minute. Thank you to everybody that joined us. I am actually, yeah, that's good. That's good. So thank you to everybody that joined us for that. It was a really enjoyable show once we got going, because Cal had a lot of problems with his microphone. We still don't know what that issue was, but we have got to work around for next time. Both really enjoyed the show once it got going, but I think there's real legs to that. So thank you again to everyone that joined us over there. So let's get into the transfer updates then and seeing what's happening. The first one is has been the talk of the town a little bit, and Jack Robinson. It's very it's not agreed yet, but it's very likely that he goes. Wrexham will be the most likely destination, and I want to know what your thoughts are. I'm not going to be on for long. The reason I'm on early is so I can spend the day with my girls today. But I want to know your thoughts on it because for me it's two pronged at the minute. Everybody knows I won't be crying in my sleep, crying myself to sleep that Jack Robinson will be leaving the football club because of his performances on the pitch. I can go into other reasons, and I don't want to there's no need. It doesn't help anybody to go into other reasons, but I don't rate him as a footballer at the top end of the Championship, as is very clear by the way I speak on the channel. And I understand that some people have an issue with that, but I always want to be honest with people on how I feel. The unfortunate other side to that at the moment is we have got nobody that can step in and do the job that he can at the moment. So as much as I don't rate him as a top end, I think he's a decent Championship defender. I think he's got a mistake in him. I think he's poor in possession when pressed. But I would rather have him in the side than to partner Bindon than anybody else in our side at the moment. So that is the situation we're in. It's a case, like obviously we sold an L with no replacement. You're now proposing to sell Jack Robinson with no real replacement lined up. So maybe the board holds on to Jack Robinson until a replacement's got. But if you look at what happened on Saturday, where allegedly, and this is allegedly, he didn't want to play the full game. There's rumours, and I can't confirm nor deny these. There's rumours of a bust-up that we've all seen, or a lot of us will have seen, by him being told he's not going to be first choice moving on, or whatever. We don't know, do we? So to push on speculation wouldn't be right, really. But if there is unrest behind the scenes from both parties, then how can you even play him in the side if he doesn't want to be here and he wants to move on? It's a really awkward situation that we're in at the minute, and it just it pushes the need to get more bodies in, and we need those bodies in through the door. So Jack Robinson will likely leave the club, and it gets a big wage off the books, another big wage, but usually that's a positive, but we've done a lot of that recently, and that's fine, particularly if you don't deem the player to be top-end Championship, but then you need to be replacing him with a player that you do believe is top-end champ, and we haven't, there's no sniff of anybody. There's been rumours and names mentioned within the fan base. Obviously, we spoke about Charlie Hughes. The latest that I heard was that we're monitoring the situation with Charlie Hughes at Hull. Hopefully there is some interest there, but I'm being told there's no definite chance of us making a firm bid for Charlie Hughes. Coventry are in there, and if we come into the race, then it pushes the price up even more. And I don't think we're going to go to £10 million for a player. And I'll come on to that as well, but we've been linked within the fan base with Callum Doyle, Chris Mepham. To my knowledge, and this doesn't mean it's not happening, I don't know that there's a genuine link there. I've not heard anything that those players are actively a target of Sheffield United. I'd like them to be. I think they're certainly strengtheners. All three, any of the three strengtheners. But I don't know is the honest truth. It doesn't look like there's any bid on the horizon for any of those three at the moment, which isn't the news again that I wanted to bring you. But that's where we are. That's where we are. In fact, before we come on some slightly better news, we'll address Michael Cooper as well. So Michael Cooper, there were rumours flying around, particularly it were posted in our chat and a few other places, that he is playing injured and might need surgery. A huge concern. He certainly didn't look himself on Saturday, and I think a lot of us recognise that. I was quite vocal about it because I'm a huge advocate of Michael Cooper. I do think he's the best goalkeeper in the league, and I worry about the depth beneath him. But because goalkeepers rarely come out of the team, it has to be an injury or a rare red card or something like that. It's not been seen as a priority to back him up, and Adam Davies is obviously the deputy to him this season. If Cooper does go down injured, then we need some stronger backup in there if we want to be challenging at the top end, and that's no no slight on Adam. Well, I suppose it is really, but I don't feel Adam Davies is a top end championship or even a very good or a good championship goalkeeper. Michael Cooper, I understand, is playing through an injury, but I'm told it doesn't require surgery, or it's not likely to require surgery, which, you know, you're leaning more towards slightly more positive than we thought, but it's still not great news, is it? Still not great that he's playing through an injury and it's likely to not need surgery. So apologies, I can feel my Aunt Sal wincing as I'm talking to you this morning, so I do apologise. It's just, oh, hang on, Danny Hall's reporting something, so while we're breaking stuff, and I'm not going to take his news away from him because I don't think that's fair, but he's saying we're freeing up space for a wildcard signing. So when you get a chance, the one thing that Danny Hall is reporting that I hadn't heard, that I'm sure he won't mind me sharing, is, oh, hang on. Oh, it's. I don't think it's a move for anybody that we've not already spoken about. But the one that he was reporting that I haven't heard was QPR being in for Reece Norrington Davis. He can go as well for me, and that's a sad thing to say because I really like Reece, and there was definitely a player in there. There may well still be, but he's a left back, and he's not going to be our starting left back. I'm not saying Sam McCallum is definitely keeping him miles away from the side in terms of the backup, but Harrison Burrows is our left back for the foreseeable future. So yeah, if there's an offer on the table for Reece Norrington Davis, I'm taking it. But again, we are thinner than threadbare, aren't we? So yeah, really quite concerning. On to some slightly better news. Rumours of unrest in the changing room. I've not heard anything about that. And I have to caveat this again because my sources come from people close to the club. But if a player is unhappy, then he may well say to his pal, he's doing my head in this, I'm not happy with the situation. And that may trickle out through other avenues. So just because I'm telling you I'm not hearing from a club perspective or people very close to the club that there's no unrest in the dressing room doesn't mean people are happy. But the way I heard it and the way I believe it, and I can't get inside the players' minds, obviously, but the way I understand it is there's no genuine unrest in terms of players being unhappy. They were just very disappointed in the result on Saturday and probably disappointed in themselves a little bit. And that's understandable and that's natural. And that's something I don't want to sort of run away with itself just because, you know, it's one loss. It's a bad loss in terms of the actual scoreline. I thought we played poorly second half, but I think there's context to it. And I think first half in the attack, I thought we were very good. So, particularly after the first 10 minutes. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom in that respect. And the players are said to be not unhappy. I won't say they're okay, but they're not unhappy about things. In terms of a centre-back target, we talked about Mepham and Hughes and Doyle not being firm targets. We are keeping close tabs on Charlie Hughes, but I'm not convinced we go that high. We want pace at the back, which is probably why Ben Godfrey's been linked. And this is something that I was suggesting why Ben Godfrey had been linked, because if you look at how we played on Saturday, it's such a high line. It's so risky in terms of being caught. You need pace. You need pace to go back the other way. It's high risk, high reward. And it could have gone very differently, couldn't it, on Saturday? But it didn't. It didn't. It went the other way. And that is the high risk strategy that we're playing. And that might be all right when you've got a fully fit squad fit and firing. But we haven't. And we had huge holes at the back. Other positive news. Tim Iroegbunam from Everton is back up the list. And after Saturday, you can see why, can't you? So this is the central defensive powerhouse that we need in that central midfield role. City was asked to do it on Saturday, was on hiding to nothing, to be fair. I like City Peck. I think he's a very good player. We don't want to sort of dampen his development in any way. But because he was paired with Gus Hamer, he was the one asked to do the defensive duties. So Gus could obviously give us that attacking flair going forward. Gus, again, went off and did his own thing. I've spoken about my thoughts on that. I'm certainly not going to be sat here slating Gus Hamer, but we do need someone firming up that line in front of the defence. And when the ball comes through and they penetrate our midfield, the last man in midfield needs to be able to tidy it up, doesn't it? Rob the ball, a bit like Vinny used to do for us. So Tim Iroegbunam is hopefully going to be the man that comes in and does that. No dates on when it might happen. On my previous update, I'd been told that it had all been agreed. All parties were happy, but Everton just needed to satisfy getting some incomings in, which they're now starting to. Obviously, they signed Jack Grealish, aren't they? So they need to satisfy some incomings before they start to let players go. That could happen any time, I would have thought. This is one that I was talking about in the beginning in terms of, I know it's happening and I know things are going off behind the scenes, but as things changed with the Nell and the defensive targets took a priority over the midfield, Tim might not have ended up happening. And then if that never even makes the mainstream or local media even, I could look like I'm, my information ain't right or whatever it is. I can only tell you, I'm telling you in good faith, as I said, and I believe this to be happening. Some deals will be going on in the background that we will never know about. We will never know because they might fall at the final hurdle before they even make the public domain. I'm telling you, this is a deal that has been arranged behind the scenes because I trust the information that's come to me. Whether it gets over the line is a different thing, but as I say, it's been told in good faith. So the last thing I'm going to touch on is a little bit of a tangent, and it's not really transfer. Well, it is, I suppose, but Tom Cannon, firstly, he's been rumoured away. I think somebody messaged me yesterday. I don't think that will happen, but I'm now being told, and I don't know how accurate this element is. So take this, it's same source, but it's not the kind of information we usually get. Tom Cannon were not a £10 million deal. It was going to be up to, in and around, not even 10 mil to be fair. So it would have been, I'm being told, and I don't know, there's a reason I'm mentioning this now. £7 million would have been the top end fee that we ended up paying, but there were things like a 20% sell on, which is obviously still live, I believe. So with everything else, it could have gone up to £10 million as a total package that we eventually ended up sort of sacrificing. But £7 million were the amount that we would end up paying as a fee if all add-ons were achieved, including like an international cap and promotion. I'm being told at the moment the fee was around £4 million for Tom Cannon. The reason I'm mentioning that is whether that ends up being right or not, because for so long we've been told it was 10 million, rising to 13 if he hit the add-ons, and that didn't quite happen. So it looks like it was just 10 that were just 10. But I'm now being told it's a lot less than people are led to believe. So hopefully that is true. And whether that is true or not, I'm using that example as a basis because what I am being told is that is the sort of fees that we will be looking to pay on permanent transfers this summer. So there is money to spend, like we've been talking about all window, but those are the sort of deals we'll be. It don't mean everybody's going to be 4 rising to 7. It means 3 to 5 million quid we're willing to pay on players. So that is the sort of ballpark we're looking at. We will go slightly higher on add-ons like promotion bonuses, which it's a drop in the ocean if you end up getting promoted. So those are the sort of, we're not going to be dropping 20 million quid on a player, which will come as no surprise to anybody. But those are the sort of numbers I'm being told are the ballpark that we're operating in. The final thing is Woo is pretty much a done deal, and this is an assumption from the source because all word of it has gone silent, which means hopefully it's about to be ready to be announced. This is a pattern that has happened previously where, look, I can't talk to you about that anymore. that tells me that it is imminent. Confident enough for me to come in here and say that I think it's more or less done. I don't know a lot about him as a player, in all honesty, and I think most I've got from it is Riff in our Platinum chat, who does a lot of research on players. He's ridiculously excited about this prospect. Shout out to Riff. Good morning, pal. Thank you for the work that you do in keeping us all informed on what these players are all about that we're linked with that are quite random at times. But plays for Red Star Belgrade. So it's not a random obscure team that we're plucking a player out of. It's not Botdev Plovdiv. Still like saying that. But Red Star Belgrade are a reputable side playing in Europe. And this player is said to be some prospect. So we will wait and see. We certainly need reinforcements at right back. Some competition for Femi. I would like somebody to come in as the starter and Femi to push them. People may agree or disagree with that. That's fine. Centre half. Get me some centre halves in as soon as you can. But nothing imminent in that position as far as I'm aware, which is it's still a worry. Still a worry. I'm going to get into a few comments and then I'm going to try and wrap up early. So I won't be able to take everyone's comments. Apologies, because I know there'll be a few on. Oh, there's not as many, to be fair. So we'll see what we can do. Who starts us off this morning? Matt says, morning, Jimmy. Please, God, do not say Cooper is injured. Worst nightmare. Sorry, pal. He's carrying an injury, but hopefully doesn't need surgery. Steve Holmes, good morning, mate. Says, where is all the so-called investment money? We have made over £20 million in player sales. Not going to lie, Jimmy, it's making me very nervous. You and me both, Steve. I can't lie to you. It's unproven, isn't it? I trust the source, but are we going to get these deals over the line? The intent is fine, but are we going to get them done? I'm not sure. We'll have to hope that that's the case. Rob says, morning, Jimmy. I stayed till the end, and Sayers talking to the players might not have been a telling off. Maybe saying go to the fans. What's left in the ground and try and get some applause. What do you think? I said exactly the same on 90 after 90, mate. Myself, Aunt Sal, my dad, Dave the Nose, and Aaron, we all stood and watched what were happening, and we were of the same impression that I don't think it was a rollicking on the pitch like a lot were saying. I think it was a motivational speech. Whether you agree with that or not is, it's neither here nor there, is it really? Because it's what he's chosen to do. But I don't think it was a rollicking on the pitch like a lot of people have badged it. The Sayers Phil Brown thing is a load of tosh, says Mark Meldrew. I agree. Overreaction from the media and trying to make him out to be the bad guy. Wilder did exactly the same at Plymouth. There you go. I can't remember Wilder doing it at Plymouth, but I agree that I don't think it was anything like the Phil Brown moment. David says, morning, Jimmy and the Ramblers. I'm up early for this. Like and subscribe to the best content creator on YouTube. Oh, mate, that's very kind. Very kind indeed. Thank you. Tim says, I'm a what will be kind of fan. Me too. But damn, I'm getting a bit worried about this centre-back situation now. I have faith, but it's being tested. Can't say it felt worth staying up till 1 a.m. on Saturday. No, I know, mate. I know. Over in Thailand, it certainly wasn't worth staying up till 1 a.m. CJ says, if Reece Norrington, Davis and Robinson do leave, they'll have no choice but to sign some defenders. Otherwise, we won't be able to field the side. That's the danger, isn't it? That you let them two go because they're not good enough. And I think that's certainly my opinion, CJ. But they're better than what we've got at the club at the moment, which is frightening. So get some bodies in. Jez says the two new dominant centre-backs are required. Agreed. The Bindon loan looks like an error to me based on the Bristol City game. I disagree with that. But you're not the only one to say this, Jez, to be fair, mate. I think he looked isolated and a bit like a rabbit in headlights at times because he was all alone. It looked like he was doing the job of two and sometimes three. Femi Sariki were nowhere to be seen because he were well over halfway line, and I think that was his instruction, as was Burrows. Reece Norrington Davis is not a centre half, so positionally he doesn't know where to be, or well, there's a few different things to say in there, but yeah. So I don't mind Bindon at all, but I think we do need two new centre backs. Certainly one starter to partner Bindon. Mitch saying, anyone seen the rumour of Caceres leaving? Saw people talking about it, but no sources or anything. No, I've not. But Caceres is available for loan, from what I understand. All of the development signings, I assume that'll mean the new right back as well. Everybody apart from Ukaki, and that may have changed since I last heard, were available for loan to go out and get some football. Hi Jimmy, have a good day, mate. Says okay, thank you, pal. Michael says, morning Jimmy, when is our blaster due back from injury? A little while yet, I think. A little while. It's a bad one, and I can't remember whether it was September, which I think is now too early. It might be November, I'll have to find out. Cooler King says, you need to get some bodies in, but there's absolutely no need to panic. This new direction is one game old. That's right, Cooler King, but we can see, honestly, when if you think that your options in the Premier League for your equivalent would be 2 kids at centre-back, then that's the panic, because you start to lose ground in the league. I'm all for waiting for better players if I trusted that would happen more. But I'm beginning to lose sight of it a little bit because we were so exposed at the weekend. John says, morning Jimmy from Spain, hot here. This lack of movement is quite worrying. What the think, bud? Yep, I agree, pal. I agree. And good morning. Hope you're having a good morning over in Spain. Big T says, morning, lad. Hope you have some good news. I've put off the gym for this. Sorry, mate. Get you sent to the gym. Phil says, it seems to be the same problem every start of a new season. No proper recruitment now. No proper recruitment. Now I hear Caceres is going to Dunfermline. So is this the new AI recruitment for loaning out players? Yes, you're live, Jimmy. Thank you, Neil. Yes, I think it is, Phil. But to be fair, Phil, I never thought Caceres was going to be a starter anyway. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's anywhere near ready, to be honest. And that's the sort of things we should be doing. Buying him, I mean, he's a little bit of an outlier for me, because I think he's 21, nearly 22, Caceres. So I understand it for the 18-year-old at Botdev Plovdiv, but 21, I think he's already mostly as developed as he's going to get. So it were a little bit of a left field one, that Caceres, not just a left winger one. But yeah, we'll see how he does out. I don't think he troubles our first team this season. He might have done off the bench just due to our dire numbers, but I don't think he'll get in the first team. Article by the Korean journalist says we're sending scouts to watch Woo in the Champions League second leg qualifier against Poznan, so deal may be some way off yet. It wouldn't surprise me if it still takes a little bit to get over, in terms of, you look at the Samari deal, that was 99% done for a long time, weren't it? I fully expect now, because of the update I've had, I fully expect Woo to be done. And the fact that everybody's gone silent on it makes me quite positive, in the respect that I hear it, makes me quite positive that we're well down the line with it. So, don't care for Robbo, get him gone, says on it. Neil says we should have club targets already identified. We will have, and it's a closed shop, isn't it? So we don't get to know about the names. I can only tell you about the names that are not on the list. And Chris Mepham, I'm hearing, is not at the moment. These can all change. Callum Doyle, I'm hearing, is not. That can change. Charlie Hughes, no active bid at the moment. Burrows is the only defender that we have that isn't League 1 or below quality. We will finish bottom half if we don't drastically improve the back line. Fair dues, Hyder. You're entitled to that opinion, pal. I think Bindon will prove to be okay alongside a stronger centre half. I think Sariki needs to work on the defensive side of his game. I think he needed more discipline in the defensive side of his game rather than a licence to go further forward more often. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a little bit of time to the window, isn't there? Jim, do you agree with me that Sayers will have to pick between Gus or O'Hare? No, not yet. I don't. Not yet. I don't. But I can see the argument. I think Dave the Nose made an argument for that, picking between Gus and O'Hare, and probably Cal misses out. But I thought Cal were our best player, or one of. I thought Tyrese Campbell played really well in parts, but I thought O'Hare was the most lively player in our side at the weekend. I think he often gets a bit of a rough deal sometimes, Callum O'Hare, because he's not Gus Hamer, and he gets overlooked in terms of his contribution. And this is just my opinion, but I think he's a very good player, and if Gus Hamer were to leave this summer, which I don't think he will, and I'm not speculating that he does, but if Gus leaves, I think Callum O'Hare becomes one of our main boys that we look to push all the play through. Michael says if Robinson goes, it's not a big loss, but before he goes, the board has to recruit at least 2 centre halves with another backup to come in. I wouldn't allow Robinson to go without replacements. Yeah, I think that's fair. Nigel says, morning Jimmy at work, so short and sweet from me. Plain and simple, we need players. Up the blades, up the ramble, up behind the ramble. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. Tim says, if the Robbo situation is true, it probably helps explain the poor effort at the back at the weekend. 3 young players probably felt unsettled going into the game. Completely agree. Cole says, morning Jimmy, what's this with having to sell Jeff? Are we selling him? That would surprise me if it's a sale. I thought it were a loan. I've not heard the link to Dunfermline. That's the first in the chat I've heard this morning, so I assumed it would be a loan. I might be wrong. This ESC thing is getting too complicated for me. Hopefully the signings in the next 7 days, though. Would love Godfrey, Hughes, Gilchrist, Tim, and a winger. I'd love Godfrey. I'd really like Hughes, but I'm not sure that will happen. Gilchrist, we've not been linked with him, have we? And Tim, I think will happen. A winger also needed. Alex says Cooper's injury would explain why he didn't move for the first goal on Saturday. He may not have kept it out, but it's not like him to stand still. I agree, Alex. I agree. That may be maybe the reason, to be honest, that he wasn't as agile and mobile as he usually is. Jack says, good morning. As of right now, I don't think we're in the top 6. I'm so annoyed with this situation. How has it got this bad? Supposed to be kicking on season from last season. So sorry, Jack, I didn't twig how you worded that. Supposed to be a kicking on season from last season. We've done note. James says, morning. If I do feel if we get the right 2 or 3 players, the situation quickly turns around. I agree with this as well. If you look at our side and you put in a strong centre half next to Bindon, I know not everybody rates Bindon, but just think about how this improves the side. A right winger, because I could do with Femi in the side rather than Andre Brooks, I think. A right winger and a centre midfielder like Tim, that massively improves the situation. I think you add another right back in there and possibly a centre half. I think we are okay, but it's with how light we are in the starting 11 at the moment. If we lose Cooper too, then we'll be in a relegation battle, says Hyder. We're not going to lose. I hope you mean to injury. I don't think we'll be selling him. Tom says, I hope Wrexham have not seen my mum play. They might pull out of the Robbo deal and go for her instead. Aidan says, just logged on, Jimmy, so apologies. Can you just recap what I've missed regarding ins and outs and injuries, please, if you can? No, I can't. You can spin back. Mike says, Jimmy, I heard a rumour that Liam Cooper, who had his contract terminated by mutual agreement by his Bulgarian club, is being linked with both Sheffield's clubs as a free agent along with Ben Mee. I hope not. Don't rate him at all. I'd take Ben Mee as an experienced head, but he'd have to prove his fitness. He's not played a lot of football recently. A really good professional, Ben Mee, and I'm certainly not poo-pooing the idea that he comes in. Me and 3 Mardy players, I don't know whether it were on or off air that we were discussing this, that Ben Mee would be a really smart signing for us. Because him and Cooper, I knew were rumoured to be training with Wednesday. I haven't heard any link to Sheffield United for either player. I don't want Cooper. I would definitely take Ben Mee as a stopgap a little bit, and then potentially proves himself and could start for us if he's still as sharp as he has been for Brentford in recent years. I'm still thinking we need 3 centre-backs, 1 right-back. I think we can still push for the rest of this season. I think 3 centre-backs. If Robbo goes and Reece Norrington-Davies goes, even though he's not a centre-back, we do need 3, don't we? We do need 3 because we need a partner for Bindon, then we need a backup for each. You can't go into the season with just 3, and we'll have just 1. So yeah, I agree with you in that regard, and a right back as well. I agree. I think we need a right winger, and I'd love to have Tim in from Everton. Morning, Jimmy. Keep up the great content, says Ian. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Is that the gatekeeper? Where's your spanner? I might have got the Ian's confused. Bean says, Jimmy, this is the worst summer we've had in many a year, in my opinion. The Prem one was obviously bad, but most fans knew we were skint. This is baffling. We're in a worse position now than the first game continued. We don't need wildcard centre-backs. This strategy is absolutely baffling. There's definitely centre-backs proven in English football we could get. A 20-year-old Swedish centre-back isn't the answer. These owners are clueless. I feel similar to Bean in so much as I think we need proven at the level. I understand the methodology of buying for what these players could turn into. That's great, and you need those in your side, and I think that's a smart strategy as a club. But you need some proven, hardened championship players in your squad. And I hate to say it because it helps no one, but it wouldn't have happened under Chris Wilder. It wouldn't. And that's not a slight on Sayers, but Wilder would have kicked off with the board, and maybe that's a reason he's not there. Maybe that's a reason. But he would have told them what we need. And I'm not saying Saturday doesn't happen under Wilder, but certainly this week we would have seen bodies through the door. And it seems like it's still quite a slow process. It certainly feels that way from a fan's perspective. Let's have a look. Where are we? Morning, Jimmy. I've heard we're trying to offload Caceres so we can get another visa place. Is that true? Don't know. Don't know if that's the reason. I think he would might go on loan, says John. So yeah, there you go. If he goes on loan, I don't know the ESC situation. I don't know enough about it, Beast Boy, but John says it's on loan to Dunfermline, and that would make complete sense to me. Jamie Hackney Boy says Gus surely has to leave. He was half decent in the Premier League. He can't be happy stuck in the Championship. Possibly. It's down to the player really. If he kicks off and wants to leave, then chances are he ends up going. But I don't think he will. We had an interesting conversation on 3MB as to I put the unpopular opinion forward. Sometimes just to sort of play devils, but if he comes out of this side, does it significantly weaken us? I know he's the best player in the team, so it sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but sometimes I feel we are very Gus Hamer-centric, and we allow him to... So, for example, if Siddy Peck plays alongside him, Siddy's expected to do all the mopping up, but Gus doesn't even hold his position, then he's all over the place, and that's fine because what he can give us going forward is brilliant. But I just think we're sometimes quite vulnerable with him in the side as well. I think there's a counterbalance to every sort of element of that conversation. Mark Meldrew says, why is Iroegbunam higher up the list when we're a shambles at the back? We need 2 in before Saturday for me, otherwise cogs will start to turn. Because I think we got ridiculously overrun. It doesn't mean instead of a defender, Mark. It means it's a higher priority now than it was seen to be before the game that we need centre midfielders. I, for example, was under the impression that, wrongly, that we are stacked in centre midfield. So I'm not really sure why we're linked with Tim. But because we have Arblaster coming back from injury, obviously there may be a delay on that. But we've got Gus, we've got Peck, we've got Tom Davis when he's fit. But we've also got Samari now as well. If Samari can do the Vinny role, if you like, then that sort of fills that spot, really. We only need 2 players in that 5-man thing. But Tim has gone higher up the list because nobody could do the job that Vinny did. And Tim is seen to be a bit of an answer to that. So that's why. And I think it's good that he is back high up the list. It doesn't mean instead of centre halves, if that makes sense. So apologies if I've not worded that right. But Rich says, morning, Jimmy, keep the news coming. I will do, mate. I will do as and when I'm able to. Sorry, it's not always a positive one. It's just an honest one, isn't it, in terms of what I know. Bean says, we don't need... Oh, yeah. Bean, I'd read that, pal. Fionn Cannon makes even worse now how we've handled the summer window so far. Get some money spent on decent signings to make us better. Have you heard anything about that centre-back from Sweden? Yeah, I still think it happens, Matt. I still think it happens, mate. Yeah, old Matty, is that what you're on about? Yeah, I think Zetterstrom will happen. I think he'll be one of the centre-back reinforcements. Just too slow for me. Just too slow. M. Webb says, I see that after Saturday's disappointment, numerous players handed in transfer requests. Peck, Burrows, McCallum, Robbo. Hope this was just frustration, but could hurt us more. Not true, from what I'm told. Again, this is the counter to what was being put online. So this comment is what was circulated. I'm told it's not true, pal. So hopefully I'm right this time and you're wrong. But we'll wait and see, won't we? No, I don't think that's the case. Andy Mack says, I'm really worried about Cooper's injury as well, Jimmy. I think you should take Melier as a backup. Not a chance. Don't you come here gaslighting me, pal. Cannot believe nothing imminent around centre-backs. Wow, we're in for a rollercoaster ride this season, aren't we? Mark, I also have to say, mate, just because I'm not hearing about it, don't mean it's not happening. I think I'd get a bit of a sniff. And I haven't had anything. But it doesn't mean nothing's happening. I know we're busy. I know we're trying to get deals done and identify players and stuff. But I can't tell you it's happening if I don't know it is, if that makes sense. Danny says, it would be nice to see the club spending on defenders. Yeah, it would. We've made all this money from sales and big wages off the books. Surely they should spend. Looking like Cooper is on his way. I didn't see anything on Saturday to see any injuries. Up the blades, up the ramble. No, he's not. No, he's injured, mate. He's injured. Don't worry. Don't worry. Rest assured, it's fine. He's injured. Anything on a right winger? Nothing, Matt. Nothing. I think we need one as well. Don't forget to hit the like button and hit subscribe, says Danny. Up the blades, up the ramble. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. It's not always something that people want to do when I'm not giving them the best news. But I think it's mixed news this morning. There's some, there's some positives out there, but it's still trying to get your head around what happened on Saturday, isn't it, as well? Morning, Jim. Keep the faith. It's only one game, pal. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that, mate. Joe says, hi, Jimmy. It does feel like the club is trying to get rid of the dead wood, which is great. Agree. But we can't let anyone else go without replacements. Agree. Well said, Joe. Also, Hull agreed to sign a Man U defender. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. So, also what you're saying is that might pave the way for Charlie Hughes to leave. I hope you're right, pal, and I hope it's us. But Tom says, Ipswich are favourites for the league. They didn't look all that the other night, so no need to panic. No, I know. To be honest, Tom, we've done watch-alongs on Ramble FC. Subscribe if you're not already over there, because I'm having a lot of fun over on that channel as well. But we did watch-alongs on all three relegated clubs from the Premier League. So we did Ipswich at Birmingham, we did Southampton Wrexham, and we did Leicester Sheffield Wednesday. And none of the relegated sides looked good. And normally, as somebody who's going to be challenging, hopefully, at the top of the table, that's it. Whee! Then you look at how Sheffield United did at the weekend, and you think, we've got to get our house in order first. So I understand what you're saying, Tom, and you're absolutely right, pal, but it's not like they're going to run away from us, is it, on current form or on the first game form? But we're already 3 points behind two of them. Billy says, this transfer strategy is absolutely slapstick at this point. Bringing in an ESC slot player at right back when we have 4 slots filled by their own AI recruitment. Board now rumoured to not be involved after we financed half of his Bulgarian team with fees. Going for young development with financial upside, then looking at 80 grand a week for 28-year-old Godfrey screams of desperation. I don't think he's on 80 grand a week, but he's on big money. Billy says, bizarre, one extreme to another. Recruitment, they need to settle their ideas and quickly. Andy says, Jimmy, thanks for all you do. You keep a degree of sanity in a mad Blades world. I try, mate. I try. Unfortunately, our expectations are too high after the great work by CW and Prince Abdullah. I think you're right, Andy. I think it's hard to manage expectations of a fan base. It's certainly not my job to do that either. I don't try and change anyone's opinion. What I do try and do is bring a bit of positivity back and a perspective to it. People don't have to listen to me, and that's absolutely fine. But it's just trying to get it around my own head really as well, and talk it through with you guys. But there are concerns here. There's definite concerns, and we're right to have high expectations because of how we finished the season last year. But it certainly speaks well to how Chris Wilder did, doesn't it, with the squad that we had. I know we didn't play free-flowing football, but it's no point dwelling on that, is there, at the minute? Any defenders brought in yet, says Gaza? Not at the minute. Wu, I think, is close. Very, very close. Skiddy says, we are not getting out of this league. I think our top-end championship days are coming to a head if we're only signing £3 to £5 million players. How does it make sense that we have new owners that aim to get promoted but aren't willing to buy top-quality players? It don't add up, does it? The only thing I will counter that with is we haven't come to the end of the window yet. If we sign £5 million players and they're the right players, then we could still do a really good job, couldn't they? We'll wait and see. But we need them now, don't we? We need them now. Paul says we need more than 2 or 3 players, more like 6 or 7. I agree with that, but I think the comment earlier was that 2 or 3 players could turn us around really quickly, and it could. That was just the first team. You look at Sheffield Wednesday as an example. I thought we spoke about it on Yorkshire's Finest with Cal last night, Ramble FC. Their first 11 wasn't bad at all. Wasn't bad. And that's what we're aiming for. Get a first 11 together first that can compete. Then worry about your squad. Their squad depth is atrocious because of the situation that they're in. Our squad depth isn't that bad at all, but in certain situations we're very vulnerable. So it doesn't take a lot to boost your first team, I don't think. But you're right, Paul. I think in general we need 6 or 7. George says, I think Bindon will turn out to be a mistake. Was bullied and made Risa look like Ronaldo. Apparently we need height and some physicality in the side too. Oh, it's apparent that we need height and physicality in the side too. Burrows bullied at left back, lost every header on Saturday. We are very small as a side. It's a great point by George. I noticed that we were at corners, we were giving up corners. As in, like, we would win a corner and then we would resign ourselves to the second phase. So what was happening was we win the corner through a high press and decent play. Then we'd have 4 players around the edge of the box. So we'd have a couple in the box to make sure that Bristol City challenged for the ball and made it difficult so they didn't just do whatever they wanted with it. But they would knock the ball away every time almost. they'd knock the ball out, and then it would fall to one of our lads on the peripheral, on the edge of the area. So we were waiting for the second phase of play there. It's tactical, and it's the right decision to make because of the ridiculous lack of height we've got in the team and presence. So that is something that we need to look at, and we haven't got at the moment. We've gone from having Vinny Souza, Kiefer Moore, all these big lads in the side, and I've only mentioned 2 there, but there were more. Ollie McBurney at one stage. We had big boys. Harry Suter. It's not the same, is it, at the moment? We're a team of teeny tiny people. Josh says, thanks for keeping us up to date, Jimmy. Really appreciate it. Thank you, mate. Can't believe Port Vale got Cameron Humphreys. We wouldn't want a Cameron Humphreys, mate. He's not. Luke Van Dome, love what you do, pal. I'm just so glad we didn't set the records in the playoffs and have an unreal season. Seriously, unfortunate to miss out on promotion and then sack our manager. That would be daft. I know, mate. Preaching to the choir. Do you think the Americans are going to use the club as a cash cow? No, I don't. I don't think they are. But obviously, time will tell. I can't ever say for sure, can I? Scott says, morning, Jimmy. Totally agree. If you want to launch a promotion push, you need to get those type of players. Chris Mepham screams the obvious and surely wouldn't cost that much. Up the blades, up all the rambles. I'm on record now as saying they're not on the list, and we might end up signing them. This is why I'm sometimes reluctant to mention certain names, but I'd rather be honest than just tell you. What might end up happening, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, is we end up signing Chris Mepham in the last few days at window because we're desperate and we haven't got any other options in, and it's taken too long to mess about. And people will then say, well, why didn't we sign him 6 weeks ago? And it's absolutely the right question to ask. So while they're not on the list at the minute, things can change. I always have to caveat it without might saying Callum Doyle to appease some fans, which would be a great signing. But wow, if he's on the list and he's an active target, then we'd be signing him now. We wouldn't be waiting till 3 weeks into the window. What's happening clearly to me, and this is just my opinion on what's happening, is we are still exploring the foreign market for deals and bargains. And when I say bargains, it doesn't mean they have to be free. It might mean we're looking for what we think is a £10 million player for £4 million. But we are scouring the market. And even if we identify them, then it takes time to get those deals over the line, more so than domestic ones do. But we have let players like, and I know Man Mountain and Dave push back on me on this, but we have let players like Jimmy Dunn go. How much were we crying out for a Jimmy Dunn type figure at the back, even if you played him at centre half? Because yes, he's had a very successful time as a right back. But even if you played him at centre half, he'd be throwing his body on line in front of those shots. He'd be doing everything he can to keep things out. Sometimes they don't have to be the next Rio Ferdinand before you sign them. Sometimes they just need to be players that help you compete at the top of the division. And we've sacrificed that. A player we could have got for free who was tied up by Chris Wilder, done. Not tied up literally. I don't want that to be misconstrued. But it was, I struggle sometimes. And I always try and be positive, and I will continue to be. Like, try and look for the, how can we now, this is the situation we're in, how can we now recover as a club? That is always the perspective I'll try and take. But sometimes I'm a supporter. I support the club. But we're all just fans, aren't we? We all have emotions about how frustrated we get. Cool King says, do you think Sheffield United without Chris Wilder is less of a draw to potential signings? Possibly. Yeah, possibly. But I also think Ruben Sayers was a big reason that Louis Barry came. I'm not saying he wanted to come for Chris Wilder. I think Tyler Bindens thought the same thing. It's an unknown quantity, isn't it? So, yeah, players will have their favourites, and Chris Wilder's known to be a good man motivator and things. So I think he would have a pull. Have you heard of any kind of transfer rumours? Because it's starting to worry me. I've just gone through them, pal, so I don't know whether you've just joined, Jake, but yeah, if you spin back, pal, you'll be able to hear him. Alan says, morning, Jimmy, do you think Sayers is just that and can't stand up to the board? No, I don't think he's a yes man. I don't think that at all. But I don't think he's yet rocking the boat. And maybe that's the right way to play it. I don't know, but it's I'm not concerned at the moment that he's just Thank you, sir. Thank you for whatever we can get. Much appreciated. But I think he's been given certain frameworks in his position, which Chris Wilder probably just kicked down and just said, look, I'm having involvement in this, this and this, because this is, I know the club and I know what's best for the club. I don't think Sayers will be that type of character, certainly not yet. If it comes to the point where he's under significant pressure and he's not a lot to lose, then why wouldn't he do that? Dan says, morning Jimmy, I don't think Hamer looked interested on Saturday. I honestly think O'Hare was our best player. Hopefully I'm wrong about Gus. I thought the same. I thought he down tools a little bit at 4. I don't think he was the only one. But yeah, it were an awful situation for all players involved, to be honest. Jamie says, I still watch your show. It's a great watch and a lot better than most Leeds podcasts. Hurry up and get promoted, marching on together. Thank you, Jamie. Normally I'd make a joke here about, well, even if we get promoted, then we'll pass you on way down. But it may be a case of we'll see you here next year, might it, at this rate. Luke says, Wu didn't make it on the pitch for a red start the other day, so hopefully that's a sign. Luke, my boy, love that sort of update. Morning, Jim. Great show last night with Cal. Really enjoyed it. Up the blades, up all the rambles. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. I really enjoyed it too. It was our first one. We were really excited for it, and then we had the sound issues to start. That were like the first 15 minutes. We both cut it out now of our shows because they're on. It's on this each channel, which is great for us to get exposure like that on Cal's channel. I really appreciate it. He obviously thinks we can bring something, but it sort of wobbled us a little bit at the start. I think we then got into a bit of a rhythm, and I really enjoyed it. But I'd set loads of stuff up for it. We were going to be all singing, all dancing. We were really giddy going into it, and then it started off a little bit clunky. So you might not be able to tell now that we've cut it, but and normally you shouldn't speak about stuff like this, but we're always honest with the audience, aren't we? So yeah, I'm confident that going forward it'll be a really, really enjoyable show. That because he's great, isn't he? To be fair, I don't often like saying nice things about him, but he is brilliant. All three look poor, and yet we look worse. You mean the relegated sides, don't you, Jack? Yeah. The Australian first keeper, Matt Ryan, is without a club at the moment if Cooper's situation gets any worse. Oh, is he? Oh, I didn't know that, Will. Did not know that. I'm just going to have a quick drink because my coffee's been sat there 45 minutes and it's cold, as you'd expect, but I've got a bit of a sore throat now. Scott says it's not loaning, Jeff, it's potentially selling. Loaning does not free up an ESC slot. Well, if it's selling, to be fair, it's no different to any other new manager coming in and not fancying, I say this in context, not fancying a previous regime's signing. Jeff Caceres was never a Chris Wilder signing. No one will convince me that he was. No one will convince me that Wilder had any involvement other than, all right, then if you want to stick him in development team, then that's fine. But he was not going to be made to play him. It was not going to be, that will have been Wilder's take on it. That's my assumption. But if Sayers has come in and said, why have we got him? He's not good enough. He's too old for the plan that we're looking at. It may just be a mistake. And with these signings, these development signings, we are going to get those. And we're going to have to take them on chin. All you have to hope is we're going to recover some of the money. I don't mind us making a few mistakes as long as we get 1 in 5, we get a gem. And that's the whole basis of the model, isn't it? That you can take some hits as long as you get a gem. So if we're selling him, I think it's poor. But I never thought he was good enough anyway. So I thought the mistake was made when we originally bought him. They don't want to be challenging, and that's the point. It's a consolidation period. Who don't want to be challenging? When you're an entrepreneur, when you have entrepreneur and ex-professional poker player dictating the transfer policy over a manager and Betis, you know something is fundamentally wrong. It's balancing the books. It's not the intention to be promoted. Ultimately, though, misanthrope is ultimately promotion to the Premier League. We have got a strong, or you would have thought, and the bookies agreed, going into this season, and we should still be in this position, by the way, that we have a really strong chance of promotion. You speculate to accumulate, and you spend 20 million quid on this squad, or even 30 million, can you imagine? Then we have a really strong chance of getting promoted. A really strong chance. And then you're in the Premier League with all the riches that come with it. That is how they make the money. They make the money in the Premier League, not by selling players. I don't think, and what I assume you mean by balancing the books, is asset stripping and things like that. I don't think that's the case, personally. I think, and if it is, it's backward thinking, isn't it? Morning, Jimmy says, weighing up the blades. Thank you, pal. Good morning. I'm not confident we spend, says Scott. If we were going to, would it not have happened by now? As I say, I think that's the strategy is wait, but I'm not happy with it. Billy says, what does that even mean, consolidation period? Yeah, from Misanthrope. Yeah, I don't think it is. We lose parachutes next year, which is financial cliff edge. The aim is promotion. I agree with Bill. I think that's what it is. Sorry, I knocked his comment off there when I was reading it. I'd be pushing for that. Jake Clark Salter at QPR, if they're after R&D, could do a bit of a swapsies with some cash. Yeah, he's a good player. But is he top end? I'm not sure. He's certainly better than what we've got, but so am I. Hello, Jimmy Smith, says Gamer of Death 69. Hello. Scott says, losing Jimmy Dunn was a really frustrating one. The exact player we needed. If you're going to take this foreign scouting approach, you should at least be ahead of it, not doing it as the season begins. It's bothered me for years now how slowly we do things in the markets. Agreed. Just get a solid base of a side and then do your flashy recruitment. And so it was free. And I know no free is ever free. And I know he'd have been a decent wage. But so is Jack Robinson. And now we're getting rid of him. But he was here to stay, weren't he? So it did not make sense to me at all. You may be right, Misanthrope, but what an indictment of their ownership, if so. Ben says, completely agree, Jim. I've been positive throughout and banging the drum for giving the new owners a chance, but actions speak louder than words, and at the moment we're not getting either. Can't argue. Jack says, our next 5 games are hard ones, so it's not sorted then. We're cooked. Brum, Swansea, Middlesbrough, Millwall and Ipswich. You can forget Birmingham because it's the cup in it, and I don't like to do that, but I think we have to focus on the bigger picture, don't we? And I don't just mean the league, I mean getting a squad together. Does this window look remotely like the board are interested in promotion? Not at the moment, it don't. Not at the moment. But they have to be. It makes no sense to not be. Keen Jelly says, similar to many Leeds fans, love and regularly tune into your entertaining and informative content, Jimmy. Thank you, mate. It blows my mind, to be honest, that people who enjoyed what we did over on One Leeds with Battle Lines, and thank you for sort of giving it the time of day, came over here, enjoyed what we were doing, and subscribed, which is great. But to now stick around and listen to me moan about Sheffield United incomings and outgoings, I find it incredible. So thank you to everybody that does that. One game has never defined a season. Blades will come good sooner rather than later. Marching on together and up the Blades. Paul from Wellstone Landscapes, one of the sponsors of our channel. Thank you for your support. He's here doing my bits around the studio, we'll say. And he was saying yesterday, he feels like the work that we did with One Leeds last season has actually brought some of the fan base, certainly in the online community that watch both channels, it's brought us closer together as clubs. I never thought that would happen. So there you go. We'll be doing a Steel City Showdown with Wednesday Till I Die over on Ramble SC. That's starting probably early September as a monthly show. Can't happen there, can it? Surely. It cannot happen there. We'll wait and see. Tom says, morning, Jim. Work meeting rudely interrupting the ramble this morning. Sorry, mate. Just catching up now. Hope you've had a good day, mate. I hope you have a good day, mate. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up the positive Meldrew. Don't know if you're a fan of Mark Meldrew, but fair dues. TT Blade says, and thank you, Tom, by the way. TT Blade says, a strong spine enables all flair players to do their thing. Where is our spine? We're spineless, aren't we? Spineless. That's a good word to describe us, actually. David Smith. You know what I'm going to say. I'm not. Morning, Jimmy. Hope you're well. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Hope you are too, pal. Dan says, any news on Jamal Baptiste? He looked steady in the games he played last season. Dropped off edge of a cliff, hasn't it? Not literally. That's not a report. But he has disappeared. Not seen him. Certainly not fancied in the first team reckoning. Unless he's injured. He may be injured, so he's unable to be in the first team reckoning. Hopefully that's the case. And I don't mean hopefully he's injured, but in terms of I'd rather he be considered in the first team in our current plight than not. So I'll try and find out a little bit about that. Jimmy, is there any PSR issues affecting how much the blades can spend in the summer window? As we've not really gone out to replace an LR2s with suitable replacements. No, nothing PSR related that's stopping us, Michael. Just long pockets, or whatever the saying is. Long pockets and short arms. I don't think they're going to be able to catch up with transfers in 3 weeks. Takes us too long. I think they might. I think we're going to be in for a busy transfer. Certainly deadline week, which don't fill me with confidence, but that's the way my head's programmed at the minute. Made my son Oliver's day meeting you, having a pick with you. Well, it was great to meet Oliver as well, so thank you for coming up and saying hello. Kershaw says, one defeat doesn't define a season. However, the top 2 last season hardly lost any games. Standard will need to be high to finish in the top 2. It will, but it's not going to be as tight, or as runaway, as it was with the top 3 and obviously then ultimately the top 2 towards the end. I don't think it'll be that tight, Kershaw, pal. I don't think it'll be that cut and dry. I don't think it'll have to be anywhere near the same points total to finish in the top 2. I think it'll be a lot closer of a league. I certainly hope so now that we've got off to a poor start. Scott says, to quote Callum O'Hare after the playoff final as owner... Oh, COH. Callum O'Hare. To quote COH, the ownership, after the playoff final, as owners we remain unwavering in our goal to see Sheffield United in the Premier League, but to establish and compete consistently at a high level. Not seeing that intent from them at the minute, says Scott. Yeah, me neither. But it's early, isn't it? It's early. It just still a concern. Tom says, also, mate, I was the one who came over for a picture in the fan zone on Saturday. Really appreciate you taking the time. My dad was more gutted he missed the chance of meeting you than missing the game. Nice to meet you too, pal. I know you are now. I know you are. It's nice to be able to put names to faces, or faces to names, whichever way around that's supposed to be. Also, we think Betis could be the problem. 2 owners we've had money and been so slow with the window, but Betis is still in charge of the transfers. Just an observation. Is he in charge of the transfers? I'm not sure he is. I think he has a say in it. From what I understand, Betis will be speaking to the media, probably in and around the transfer deadline, maybe slightly after. But I'm pretty confident that he will be the man to come out and sort of put the fans' concerns at rest a little bit and sort of answer any questions that we've got. He won't be on the Ramble probably, but he's more than welcome to jump on. He knows that. But yeah, I think Betis will be the spokesperson for the board going forward, because I think they recognise that the need to communicate with the fan base. But like everything, it's already gone too far, hasn't it, that way? And it feels like we've got no communication at all. Last time Stephen Betis did something similar on Radio Sheffield, it went down really well with the fan base. He's a really good communicator, and I do trust that he will offset some of our fears, but it'll have to be a good window. We'll have to finish really well. Archie says, if you could pick 3 realistic signings before the end of this window, who would they be? Realistic signing. I'm not saying we'll get these, but I'd love Charlie Hughes. I'm going to go Wu, because I think he's coming in anyway, and I'd like somebody at right back. I'd like a right winger. I don't think it's realistic at this stage, but somebody like Ben Doak would be ideal. And I want Tim as well. I want Tim in the middle, because Lee Edridge, as I've said before, he were onto me about him 18 months, 2 years ago. And he really rates him, and having watched him a little bit since then, I think he's exactly what we need at the minute. Russ says, though Anel was hit and missed the last 2 seasons, I thought Anel was hit and missed the last 2 seasons, but surely worth a calculated risk of losing him for nothing versus Prem money if we go up, particularly given the centre-back situation. Well, the centre-back situation doesn't need to be what it is, does it, Russ? That's the complaint. I don't think you keep an unhappy player. I'm not of that thought process, and I know some are. I think the money that was offered, and I think it's been quoted as slightly lower than what it was. I don't think you can turn it down for a player in his last year. I think it's really good business, but I think it's been really terrible timing. Terrible timing. So I would have still taken the money for Anel, but like you say, Russ, given the centre-back situation, you get somebody in first. I think the problem with Anel was they wanted it done within 48 hours because of their Champions League situation. So that was what it was. Ben Doak is a great shout, by the way. I'm not the first one to say it either, to be honest. So, yeah, there you go. Right, I'm going to call it there. Thank you to everybody that's joined us this morning. Sorry, it's not always the most positive of updates, but it's the most honest update I can give you. There are some positives in there as well. We will be back on the channel doing a watch along for the Carabao Cup game tomorrow night. So join us there. Well, if he does a press conference beforehand, it might be today. It might be tomorrow. I'm assuming it'll be later on this afternoon if it's if it's going to be at all. We'll do our best to get all the information from there because hopefully they'll be asking him some decent questions. But if we don't do a hot off the presser, we'll be here for the watch along. Hope to see you all there. If you want to tap that bell, give us a subscribe and tap that bell. Like this video if you've enjoyed it, then you won't miss us. So I'll catch up with you soon. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards! All the blades!